بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد إخوة الإسلام عباد الله. This particular clip is important for the Muslim communities within the inner city and or urban areas on account of the reality that we have to start to address the phenomena of traumatized or victims of trauma entering into al-Islam. Due to the negative ramifications that occur in some cases, or in a lot of cases, when people that are carrying trauma enter into al-Islam and then start to intermix within the communities, especially as it relates to marriage. Now, I want to mention briefly what motivated me to give this particular talk. I had a discussion with a 25-year-old woman yesterday while at work, and I must have talked to her for nearly an hour. This woman is an epileptic. She suffers from epileptic seizures, and she mentioned that they were quite severe. She was having some type. She was having a problem while at work because of the lighting, and it was as a result of her, epilepsy. She said it affects her in a negative manner. She also suffers from depression, and she has had suicidal thoughts. Of course, she's on medication from, doctors. In other words, she's on pharmaceutical drugs, and thus forth and so on. Now, she mentioned these things to me. I didn't know who this woman was. She said she was Uslan Jamaican. She was like second or third generation here in America. So without a doubt, I didn't hear any type of accent because she was raised in the inner city and or urban areas amongst Black Americans. But she started to go into, she started to reveal some stuff to me about her personal life and her personal situation that, is sad in a sense, because she is a woman who was not protected and has been through a lot of hardship and a lot of adversity. She was telling me about the current boyfriend that she has, who is very verbally abusive and to a degree physically abusive, as she mentioned that he clotheslined her one time and he treats her, and in fact she said that he's not even her, this man isn't even her boyfriend, this is her ex, but he's controlling and he treats her in a way where it's manipulative. She didn't use those words, but what she was describing to me, the nature of this man, her and this man's relationship, he's manipulative. She doesn't have a other way of going about doing things, and he's exploiting that. But then she mentioned about a boyfriend that she had before this particular individual who used to literally beat the crap out of her and had her chained in a room, locked in a room. And at one point, pouring, throwing hot sauce and other type of food at her, so much so that it had his dog, biting or nibbling at parts of her body. She's dealt with people like this, and her family structure wasn't that strong at all. In fact, as I was talking to her, one of her aunts walked up and started conversing with her. And as soon as her aunt walked off, she started to speak illy of her aunt as it relates to their relationship and how her aunt knows some of the things that are going on with her and refuses to help. And so much so, and this is what's really unfortunate, because from the beginning, I told this woman I was a Muslim, and she mentioned that she had an uncle that was a Muslim. Now, there are some people that claim to be Muslim that are around that are people with one foot in, one foot out Islam. They don't pray, that that's for so on. So she mentioned to me that her uncle tried to rape her when she was a child. So when she mentioned this, I said, was he really Muslim? Is he really a Muslim? And she said, yes, he's a Muslim. And she started to describe the Salat. She started to describe how he prayed. She was describing the Salat, not to the letter, but she described enough for me to know this is a man that prays. Because when she told me she had a Muslim relative, I told her, you need to go to your Muslim relatives and seek their help and seek their protection and listen to their guidance, the guidance that they have with them, because it'll help you. And then she informed me that, well, when my uncle, when I was a child, he tried to do this. Of course, that means he must have been much younger too. The point that it's very possible for this woman, that woman in particular, and women that are similar to her, to accept Islam. I'm pretty sure we have, and in fact, I know we have women that have accepted Islam, that may have the exact or similar backgrounds, So we can't act oblivious to this reality. If this woman was to accept Islam tomorrow, she has all this baggage, all this trauma with her. And so the communities have to start to become more involved as it relates to when people are accepting Islam. We have to start to get into people's businesses. We have to start to get into the people's business to find out if they're coming into Islam with baggage of this nature. Why is that? Because generally speaking, especially when it comes to young women that may step into Islam, they may be looking to get married. They may want to get married. They have their sexual itch and the sexual desire, and thus forth and so on. And so they may want to get married. And so this type of woman who steps into Islam, if that sister was to accept Islam tomorrow, with me knowing what I know of her, from what she mentioned to me, there'd be no way possible that I would ever encourage her to get married. On the contrary, what I would encourage her to do is come to grips with the trauma that she suffered from throughout her 24 years of living on this earth. That you have to heal yourself first before you can ever be suitable for any man. And so the point that I'm trying to make is that to a degree we have to start the masajid that have structure and have organization have to start getting into the business of people like this, not to be in a business, not to spread it, not to speak down upon them, not to look at them negatively, and thus forth and so on, but to be able to assist in healing their or addressing their trauma. Because if you have a person that's suffering from depression and suffering from suicidal thoughts and things of that nature, that is not the type of person who is mentally ready to enter into any union or any marriage with any man. Not while those things are still there. And so I see this, the brothers, the community has to assist in that regard. And I see this being in accordance with the statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which says, "Wallahu fi auni al-abd ma kana al-abd fi auni akhihi." That Allah is, as it relates to aiding or assisting the servant, what the servant is to aiding or assisting his brother. There's no way that we could have a person knowing and recognizing that they're suffering, they have this type of traumatic baggage with them, and then we act oblivious to its reality and we act oblivious to the ramifications that could come about when this type of person starts to mix within the community, especially as it relates to marriage and other than that. No, this person needs to be healed. Help needs to be given as it relates to addressing those things. And so the masajid, we have to put the masajid within the inner cities, especially the ones that are structured, that already have programs, or they already have services that address or that aid and assist in getting people married or getting people set up when they come into Islam and that's forth and so on. Then they also need to add to that, looking into the backgrounds of individuals to see if they are trauma victims, to be able to assist those individuals with their trauma. We just can't allow people to be suffering from whatever it is they're suffering from, and they're mixing freely within the community, and we're not addressing that. We're not assisting them as it relates to bettering themselves in that regard. We can't have this. If that woman was to accept Islam tomorrow, and then and those traumas are ignored, and then a month, 2 months, 3 months, or 6 months later, if she was to get married, it's almost a guarantee that marriage would not last. That marriage would not last, right? Because she has too much baggage with her. So we have to assist one another in this regard upon birr wa taqwa, and that's what this would be. وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ. And aid one another upon birr and taqwa, and do not aid one another upon sin and transgression. So we want to be mindful of these things, because as I was talking to this woman, and as she started to go into all of those things that she started to mention, one of the things I said to myself was, I would have never thought that had she not revealed all that stuff. I would have never thought that had she not revealed all that stuff to me. And you never know, she might end up accepting Islam one day. You never know. So we have to start to address this. We can't continue to act oblivious to this, because it's at a detriment to our communities, generally speaking. And so this is what I wanted to mention, and this is, specific to the administrators of the masajid within the inner city and or urban areas, specific to them, and generally to the Muslims. To the Muslims in general, those who may not necessarily have or be part of organizing and that's what for so on, but may see and or know of a Muslim that enters into Islam with this type of background, then at the very least you can direct them to the masjid or some other service that hopefully is set up or will be set up to deal with things of this nature. And Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala knows best. And with that, Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.